And we're live. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to 1-6 Fix for another origin story. Episode 5 today, Gigi. Yeah, exciting.
Cool.
I'm your host, Marco G, aka the Six Scale Scoundrel, and I'm here with my beautiful co-host, Gigi. Gigi, say hi.
Hi.
Today we have a phenomenal guest, Thomas, aka SpongeBob SquareBalls. I got to say that one right. So yeah, very excited to have a conversation with Thomas about, he's retired. So how does he, manage hot toys in his life? I think it's a really cool new perspective. So I'm going to play the intro video. Gigi didn't get to catch it last time.
I'll pay attention.
I'm pretty sure she's actually never seen it. Gigi, I spent a good hour on this thing. So, all right, here it goes. Gigi, you looked away again. You might be the worst. Wow. All right. Well, we'll get to you eventually. All right. So let's bring in our special guest, Thomas. Thomas, how you doing today?
Doing great. How are you doing?
Doing well today. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on as well.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
Gigi said I need to stop saying coming on, so I'm going to find a new term to.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you for joining.
Okay.
There you go. Oh boy! So let me address the chat, and we'll hop into some warm-ups. We got a lot of questions for you, Thomas.
Oh, wow.
So let's see who we got in here. We got Ben Thomas. Hey Ben, thank you for joining. I think Ben and I are going to be collaborating on something this week, so really excited to get Ben back into the mix.
Yeah.
And he's killing it with his channel as well. We got Tukathri. Tukathri, what's going on? Thank you for joining. We got our boy Cuervo. Cuervo, what's going on? Hey, looking forward to Disneyland. I think the plans are falling into place there. We got H Green 1313. H Green, thank you for joining. We've got Equan. Equan, what's going on? Thank you all for coming on here today. Gosh, I keep saying it.
I'm going to address this one. Let's just move on. Chukasi, thank you for letting us know. We didn't know how bad when we were. Yeah. What were we doing?
Every stream that we've ever done, the audio is always, we're low budget. We're trying to up our bar every time. So Thomas, thank you for coming prepared with a crispy, background and good audio. So.
Hey, I was wondering if it was going to work. I mean, when I was on Clothes Wars, we were having trouble with the audio, and I said, "Well, I'm gonna give these earbuds another try." And so I'm glad it's working for you.
He's working well. Last time we did that unboxing and I forgot to mute our second screen. And so we had this terrible echo and yeah. So everyone in the chat, let us know if we start going sideways here, but we're trying to up our game up. Cuervo saying he's excited for Disneyland. Oh wait, does Gigi know? Yes, she does know that we're going to Disneyland.
No, building the new lightsaber.
Oh, sorry. Reading is not my strong suit. Yeah, Cuervo, she didn't know, so thank you for busting us out on that. I was really trying to hide that one. So let's get into it. So Thomas, warm up question for you: how did you come up with the name SpongeBob SquareBalls? Because that's it's a different one.
Yeah, it is. I was watching Justin's stream, and Leo was on there. Leo's on there with other people, and there was a streamer that had posted something, and his name was Journey to the Center of My Balls, and when Justin said that, Leo just cracked up. I mean, he went on a nonstop laughing fit for
when
minutes.
Leo gets going, his laugh is infectious too.
Exactly. And see, at the time, I was just going by the original stream, the thing that I set up YouTube originally. I think it was like TLC 65 or something like that. I said, that's kind of boring. I said, I want to come up with a name that's going to make Leia laugh, because Justin has that way. I mean, with the accent and everything, he just sounds so prim and proper. And I said, I need to say something that when he says it, it's just going to make Justin laugh, make Leia laugh.
Yeah.
And so I went through a number of different names, and see, I've always really enjoyed SpongeBob SquarePants. And I said, wait a minute, SpongeBob Square, and I said it has to do something involving balls. I said,
has
how
to,
about
obviously.
SpongeBob Square Balls? I said, I think that's it. So I put it in there just subtly, and then when I came on the stream, I said, let me go ahead and do one of those super chats just to make sure Justin has to say it. And he said, And so he said, of course, this is from SpongeBob SquareBalls, and Lael just went crazy. And I was like, okay, that's a good name. That's the name I'm gonna stick with. But that's how it happened. I mean, it's Lael's fault. And now I'm stuck
That's
with
right.
it. Now I'm stuck with it.
Like most things, it is Lael's fault, but that's so good. I know you tried to
Hmm.
change it one time too, right? To like the Spongy the
Yeah,
Collector or something.
and they said no. They said change it back. I was like, oh man,
Everyone
I'm
vetoed
stuck.
it.
Yeah, I said I'm stuck with it. So
Absolutely. Well, that's awesome. Thank you for bringing that to light. Because yeah, I was always been curious, and so cool to finally see the person behind SpongeBob SquareBalls when you were on, Pose Wars, and so yeah.
yeah, oh yeah, that's been so much fun. I've been having such a good time with that.
And you've been killing it on there. All the stories that you craft and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think I kind of had a last one wasn't quite as up, but you know what? And Gigi, thank you for that Bane. I appreciate that. I did not know that I could do that with that figure on that base. I learned something new, so I'm like, hey, I'm like, all
I'm
right.
here to help.
I think
I'm
I'm in the
here to
rhythm
help.
now.
Sometimes the most creativity comes out of those constraints, right?
Yeah, exactly. Hmm.
Yeah, I might have to bow out of Pose Wars, to be honest. I think Gigi's been, angling to take my spot recently, so we might just swap her
Aha.
in for me. Because last time we were on there, I dropped a bunch of figures, and yeah, I've been a mess on there. So
Well, what I've been finding out and really enjoying is that I think I just like the camaraderie and and also being on there actively seeing how people are responding. I've
hmm
been kind of picking up a lot of new tips and tricks that I can try out. So I kind of have really been enjoying it. And and I know that I'm not likely to win. The pose war. There are some favorites that are just they are going to be the ones that are going to win because the audience just loves them.
yeah, that's the tough
And I
part
think that
sometimes.
yeah, and I think that's cool. But I just enjoy just being a part of
Yeah,
it, and just being able to hang out, get to know people, and I'm learning a little bit more. I mean, I have a difficult time. I've got ADHD also, and so being able to focus on one thing at a time is kind of something that I do well, but multitasking is a real struggle for me. So when they ask me questions, I kind of have to
yeah.
pause myself for a second and say, let me answer the question
You
and then
break
let
a
me
little
get
bit.
back to it. So I'm kind of learning how to mix things up just a little
Absolutely. No, it's so challenging to balance all those things under the time
bit. Hmm.
constraints. Oh boy. Yeah. So Gigi, you're gonna take over for me or what?
I mean, it's okay.
All right. So
We'll see.
she enjoys
I
watching
don't
me
want
struggle.
to. I love being in the chats. Like that's one of my favorite things. So I just really enjoy that. And also, like, I don't want to be responsible for damaging. I'm for sure gonna damage your stuff. So I don't want to be. I don't want any of that smoke.
We got to get Gigi her own figure
Right?
that's just Gigi's,
She's
Here
and
we
then
go.
you can just play with it to your heart's content.
That's right.
I did really like the Spider-Man
The homemade suit.
homemade suit.
Oh, the
Yeah,
homie suit, yeah,
yeah. I
yeah.
feel
You did
like
really.
yeah.
You were
I
doing
feel
really
like
good
I.
poses with that.
Thank you. I feel like that one. Like it can't really get damaged, and so I feel
Hmm.
the most comfortable with that.
Oh, off topic. I just had lunch right before we started, and I had a cupcake from Gigi's Bakery.
Oh, really? How was it?
I'm taking
It was
over.
delicious. Gigi, your cupcakes are delicious.
Well
I
done,
just want to
Gigi.
tell you.
That's
Everything I
awesome.
do, I do well.
she she actually is a really great baker, though.
Oh, really?
She could cook really well and bake really well. It's just
Oh,
finding the
wow.
time to do it.
Yeah.
So like I get it
Yeah.
like maybe like once every other month she'll make something for
I'm
me.
a stress baker, so when I have, finals, that's when I'll bake.
Oh,
So Marco's
well,
very
just
lucky.
just just make sure that during the time when you're stress baking, um, just let me know. I'll place a little order with you. But we'll work that out.
Perfect.
Let's see. Cuervo's asking. Why don't you read that? Too many words for me.
If you were to pick one figure to have, which one would interest you besides the Spidey? That's tough because again, I feel like I'd want. I was kind of thinking about this actually. I was like, oh my god, I hate myself for thinking this, but I think that would be my go-to. Just one. I feel like you can appreciate, like I've mentioned before. I think you just appreciate things more when you have less because
Mm.
You're not a real collector with that
just how
mentality,
I
though.
feel. Um,
It's true. It's not. It's
but
not wrong.
I feel that there's two some people really like to pose, and so I think that's what makes it difficult, because if you really like to pose, there's no way I would be able to get the Wonder Woman, because that's just not a figure I would like to pose. It would
Yeah.
have to stay
Oh,
in that one particular pose throughout. So, but I do like Corva. I know you mentioned that you have like your desk mates, and so you put it on your desk, and I think that'd be really cool. I would have to think about it. A Grogu, probably, of course. That would make my heart
A full
content.
posable Grogu. Okay.
But
now,
little,
Grogu,
Nice.
is that
tiny,
the little the
baby
baby?
Yoda. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you have to let me know some of those things. I'm not really that into Star Wars,
Okay.
so but I know I've heard different things. So yeah, so
No one
I may
calls him
ask
Grogu, anyways, right? It's always going to be Baby Yoda.
Baby Yoda.
Yeah, true. So I don't know. To pose, I like the Spidey. To just have like as a desk mate, I'd have to think about it.
Okay. And let's see, Tukathri's asking when he can come over for the baked goods. Tukathri, we'll talk offline. We'll send you our rates. So Thomas, first question for you. Besides, obviously, we had the name origin, but how'd you kind of start getting into the YouTube Hot Toys community? How'd you start watching streams? It's always obviously a slippery slope with all the content out there, but really curious
Yeah.
how you got into it.
Well, it was actually during the time when, before I got my transplant, when I was still on dialysis, and for 2 years after I started, I was working for a while, and then trying to balance the two, it was just really difficult. So at that point, that's when I decided I was just going to retire. And when I retired, I was just kind of it was boring. I mean, it was just boring just to have nothing to do but watch Judge Judy.
I hear that often.
Now I'm a Judge Judy
Right.
fan. I
There's only
mean,
so much of it you could watch, though.
that's my girl. But I was like, man, I said I need something to do. So I went on. I was just scrolling through YouTube, and Justin's collectibles came up on one of my streams. I mean, in my that thing that they scroll now.
The feed or
So
whatever, yeah.
yeah, so I clicked on it, and he was I forget what figure he was reviewing. I said, "Wow!" I said, "That's really interesting." So I kind of followed up, and that's when I found the group. So I joined a group. I said, "Well, this would be a fun place to kind of interact because I've always really enjoyed figures,
Hmm.
but I don't have people locally who are really into it." And I said, well, it's nice to be able to find a community where there are people who appreciate adults who
Hmm.
appreciate it, and that I can kind of have that shared camaraderie with. So that's kind of how I got started, with that. But I also at that time had a few figures. As we were talking backstage, I actually rediscovered a figure, my very first Hot Toys that I had forgotten. I didn't even know it was a Hot Toys. I just knew that I was just going through. It's after the Star. I mean, not Star Boy. The Astro Boy movie, and I was looking for. I really wanted a figure to represent that because I always loved that manga
Hmm.
and the old '60s anime that they used to have for was just so cool. I was like, I would really like to get one. So I went on eBay, I found it, and I brought it in. And of
Well,
course, at that time,
you glanced over the price right there.
I don't remember what it was. I think it was
Sure,
probably
that's what they
it was
all
it.
say.
Yeah, it was under two. It was under 300.
Okay.
So I think it was probably like in the range, maybe about 250, 275 or so. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna get it. I said I really like it. So I brought it, got it, and I opened it up, and I was like, I kind of played with it a little bit. I said, oh, this is so cool. Then I stuck it back in the box because it had all these little accessories and stuff, and I didn't want to lose anything.
Yeah.
And that was before I was setting up displays and things like that. So he went in the closet on a shelf, was sitting up there. Um, 10 years later, today, I was sitting there thinking about different things I enjoy, trying to think about things that you might like to know about me. I was like, I really love anime and manga. I said, and then I started thinking, I said, hey, that's right, I really like Astro Boy. I was like, wait a minute, I've got an Astro Boy. So I went up into the closet and pulled him down. I was like, he's a Hot Toys. I mean,
Oh my
how did I not know this?
That's-
And that was my very first figure. Um,
wow.
but that was the very first figure that I got that was actually a Hot Toys. My very first figure when I started collecting was actually I have him over there. I'll show it to you a little bit later.
Sounds good.
But he is Lobo.
Oh, that's a great one to start with. Okay.
Yes, yeah, he was the sideshow's Lobo, and I
For
gone.
Gigi, can you explain the DC character Lobo?
Yes,
Does it mean
Lobo is
wolf?
this.
Yeah.
No, he is a. I would call him the DC equivalent of if Wolverine and Deadpool had a baby
There you go.
and he lived in space. That would be Lobo.
Okay.
Lobo is just a hardcore drinking, cigar smoking space mercenary, and he doesn't give a f. He really doesn't. He is just. I think that I told somebody in the chat on one of Justice and we were talking about somehow Lobo came up. I was like, yeah. I said I remember in the comic book Injustice. This is pretty recent. Um, there was some sort of big war with the Red Lanterns. You know, they're the angry ones, and the Green Lanterns were trying to fight them. They were getting just pummeled, and Lobo was helping them fight. So he went in there, and one of the Red Lanterns that was like the leader, he basically incinerated the lower half of Lobo's body,
Wow.
and Lobo can regenerate himself.
Okay.
So he was really hot. He was like, wait a minute. He said some of my favorite parts are below my waist, and so then he goes off and he's regenerating, and the Green Lanterns were running out of fighters, and they had a ring. They said, well, should we give one? Maybe let Lobo. They said, I don't know. They said, look, we don't have any choice. Give Lobo a ring. So Lobo got the ring, went to well, it was a Red Lantern guy who basically incinerated his parts, and there was this Red Lantern that was a cat. So first he goes in there, he kicks the cat, and the cat goes flying across the universe, and then he basically uses his power ring to create a giant dildo, and then he beats the other one with the giant dildo, and all the fighters are like, "Is that what I think it is?" It's like, yeah.
I'm shocked we haven't gotten this on for a movie of Lobo just yet, right? Like that's
Oh, I know. I would love a Lobo movie,
right.
but he
HBO
is.
series maybe.
Yeah, exactly. But he is hilarious. He's one of my favorite characters. Um, I like those off the track ones, even though I really love the traditional ones like Superman, Wonder Woman, of course the Avengers, Justice League, my X-Men are my core favorites. But you give me an off the beaten track one that's a little off in the head, like a
You're right.
Deadpool, a Lobo. I don't know if y'all have ever heard of Madman.
No, I have not.
Uh, that's a Mike Allred book, but Madman. You give me those figures; those are going to be the ones that I'm going to gravitate to because I
Okay.
just like those. I like those ones that are really off.
The quirky ones, yeah,
And you
those
They're
know
the
are.
what?
quirky ones.
That's a great conversation piece. Let me tell you about the story of what he did.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
well, that's actually when I set up my channel. I know we'll talk about this a little bit more. That's actually one of the things that I want to do is that I kind of want to do a little bit more storytelling of some of my favorite comic book things that have happened, and then if I had the figure to try to recreate it in my white box, and try to do something like that. So I've tossed around some ideas,
I
but
like that. It's
that
different.
yeah, but that's one is the Lobo, and then I also love the one where it was written '70s from Luke Cage Hero for Hire. Doctor Doom had hired Luke Cage to basically beat up some of his Doom bots that were running around Manhattan. So he was going to pay him $200. So he Luke Cage does it, beats up all the Doom bots. Then he goes back to collect his money, and Doctor Doom has already flown back to Latveria. And so Luke Cage was hot. He was like, so he went over to the Fantastic Four and said, "Look, I need to borrow your Fantastic Four mobile. I need to fly over to Latveria because I need to get my money." So of course, so he gets in a fight with the Fantastic Four. When they find out what he's doing, they say, "Yeah, if you want to beat up Doom here," so they loan him their Fantastic Four-mobile. He goes flying up to Latveria, and when he finds Dr. Doom in his castle, he says, "What are you doing here?" He said, "I heard about some crazy black man flying around my country looking for me." He said, "Look, honey, I want my money. Where is my $200?" He said, "Wait, you flew all the way over here for $200?" He said, "Yeah, I want my money."
Sounds like some
So
shit I would do, to be honest.
exactly. So then he went and beat him up, and so finally Dr. Doom said, "All right, look here's your money." There are very few people. I mean, Gigi, I don't know how much you know about Doctor Doom. Doctor Doom doesn't get beat by anybody, but Luke Cage beat him up for $200.
That's
He was like, "I want my money. You hired
Play
me.
with the
Give me my
man's
money."
money.
that's right. See, Gigi, you're learning today. So Thomas, sorry, I derailed you with the question I asked, but I
Oh,
want
I'm
to go in the
sorry.
Wayback Machine. No, 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 not at all. Like I'm loving this conversation, but I want to go in the Wayback Machine, and then let's connect back to that Lobo figure. So let me
Okay.
ask you, when you were younger, when you were a kid, what's your first collecting memory, and what did you collect when you were younger?
When I was a kid, now I'm 57. I was born in 1965. And so back in the 60s, the figures that little boys would get were things like G.I. Joe. So I had G.I. Joe and this, that, and the other. I also had Stretch Armstrongs. And, I don't know if y'all, he's that stretchy guy with
Heck yeah.
arms up in there. So I had Stretch Armstrong. I had um, Big Jim. He was kind of like this little small, wasn't really a 12-inch figure, probably more like a 8 or 10-inch figure. And he had this back thing that you press in, and his arms would punch out like that. So I had like Big Jim, and then when I got into comic books, I started collecting more of the 6-inch uh, figures. Like, of course, I had things like Madman. I had Crimson. Um, again, I didn't collect the common ones that everybody got. I always wanted the ones from the books I loved that were kind of a little bit off.
So you
So
needed that
those are the ones
representation from what you loved, basically.
exactly. So I got those things, and I stopped collecting figures for a while. Kind of stayed more with the comics, and then after a while, I just kind of strayed away from the comics. I would just get them occasionally. At some point, when I was maybe in my mid 20s, I sold my entire collection, which to this day I could kick myself. Um, I had the entire Avengers, all the John Byrne Avengers. I had a complete set of X-Men, from giant size X-Men going all the way through and past the Dark Phoenix saga. I mean, I had so much, and I guess I just lost
What
interest.
compelled you to? Oh, so you just lost interest, and you're like,
Yeah,
time to
I
move on.
lost interest, and I also at that time was kind of like, young and impressionable. I kind of had this religious conversion, I guess, and of course the people were saying, "You don't need to be collecting those devil things.
Oh
Get
no.
get the secular stuff out of your life." So I said, "Okay, I'll get rid of this," and so I sold them. And after I kind of recalibrated myself and balanced things out, I was like, I don't think there's anything wrong with enjoying the fantasies that we create in our heads
That's right.
and enjoying these things. So I started collecting again, but I stuck with the comic books. It wasn't
So
until
what age?
later,
What age were you when you started collecting again, if you remember?
um, probably, I'd probably say in my 30s.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah.
That's kind
And
of where I'm at right now, rediscovering the collecting. So that's why I
yeah.
asked.
And when I started collecting, I decided not to go back with to the individual books, because one of the problems that I had, and part of it's the ADHD, is that I buy things and then I forget I bought them. So I would actually go to the comic book store, buy comic books, not get a chance to read it, forget I bought them, go back to the comic book store, buy them again, and then I come through and say, why do I have duplicates of all these books? So I said, at that point, I said, you know what? I prefer, when I started doing trade paperbacks, that's when I really start collecting. I said, I want to read stories, but it's easier for me to read a complete story, because what I found that happens is that when you read it, when I read it month by
Hmm.
month, I forget things in the story, and in order to go back and get it again the next month, I would have to go back and read it again, which I'm probably not. But if it's in one volume, I can actually read the whole story and everything's fresh in my head.
That's how
So
I
I
am
started
too.
to,
Like you need those fine
yeah,
details to be fresh to
I
appreciate it.
forget them. Exactly. So that's why I started collecting more
See, I'm not alone,
of the
Gigi.
books. Yeah, but yeah,
Don't even get
it's
me started.
but yeah, that's how I got back, and but really didn't get back into figures until I was basically in my 40s, because I always had this dream of, well, the dream came true, not how I expected. I always had this dream of retiring, before I turned 50, so I could just say, now I'm going to go and live and enjoy life. Well,
Hmm.
it was at a time where first my mother died. Well, first my mother's father died, and I was kind of like a caretaker at that point for my family. I lived here in the same thing, so I basically moved back in. Was helping to take care of my grandfather. After he passed away, my mother got sick, and so I was kind of helping to care for her. She passed away in 2006, and so then I stuck around to kind of help with my father. He basically died 6 years later,
So
and
you were
so after
devoting
every
your whole life to everyone else and being an angel.
yeah, well, and I don't know if it's really being an angel, but the fact is that the way I think about my family is that these are people who've been with me from the beginning. I'm not sometimes I'm not the easiest person to be around.
I have a hard time
I think that
imagining that.
I think for some people I'm more of an acquired taste, and I think after 40 or 50 years, you kind of acquired me if you're still with me. So, so my family, they know me, they know all my quirks, um, and they have put up with us. If you can deal with me, then that means you got me and I got you. So so after my father died 2 years later, well, I was really fortunate. I made some really good friends in between that time. But 2 years after my father died, I got really sick and wound up in the hospital, and that's when I found that my kidneys were failing, and the kidney function was so low. I mean, I think they said I probably only had maybe about between 15 and 20% function
Oh my gosh.
remaining. And so they immediately said, you need to start on dialysis. I didn't want to, but I did. And so for 5 years, I was on dialysis, and I was kind of in and out of the hospital. Now I'm a person who has never ever been admitted to the hospital before that date. So
Wow.
basically, about 49 years of a good track record. Next thing you know, I'm in the hospital. Um, they're sticking um, perm cath to my neck so I can take dialysis, and then I get the thing that they stuck into my stomach so I could do dialysis at home.
Oh
And I
my
did
gosh.
that for about 5 years. I wound up, developing several hernias and things like that that they had to repair. So I was like in and out of the hospital. And at some point, I said, you know what? Trying to do this and trying to stay alive and work just isn't working for me.
Yeah.
I said, this job is causing me too much stress for me to find it funny anymore. So that's when I said, well, and I was fortunate that I had some retirement that I had saved up, and I tried to invest that very well. And my parents
Aside
also
from the
left me
comic
my
books, right?
exactly,
I'm
yeah.
joking.
And my parents had also left a nice nest egg for me and my sisters. So when I looked at my financial advisor, he said, "Look, you got enough money to live on if you don't want to work anymore." So I said, "I don't. Bye." So
There
I
you
so
go.
I left the
I had to
job.
take that.
I said, "I'm out. Peace." So I left, and that's when I kind of got into this because I afterwards I really needed something that was going to bring me joy.
Hmm.
And I said, you know what? I well before then I forgot I actually was collecting something else. I actually was collecting Asian ball jointed dolls. That's actually where I kind of started
I'm not
because those
familiar with
are
those. Oh,
oh
go
oh
ahead.
I actually brought one.
Okay.
Actually one of my favorites. I'll part of show and tell.
Let's check
Um,
it out.
yeah, this is actually one of my favorites because I kind of want to. This is one that you can customize them. They're resin and they can come out
Oh,
Oh
blank.
wow.
wow.
Holy
Yeah,
cow.
this is a lion one that I made. I dressed him just to make sure that he wasn't new because they are anatomically
Oh, I
correct.
see.
So
Just like the
yeah,
Fisons,
but
huh?
yeah, exactly.
Where's Danny
So
when you need him?
yeah, so what I did is that um, I always had plans to try to make him into a hero type of
Okay.
figure. And most of my figures, that's what I kind of want to do with them. But it's just a matter of trying to figure out what I wanted to do with him. So I'm still trying to figure that out. But this is actually well, he's actually one of my favorites because I like the ones that are um, the ones that are more anime related are fine, but there's something I like, but also something a little creepy about those anime figures. I mean, they're adults, but they kind of look like small children
Okay.
in the face.
So weird.
Yeah, they have a child's face, but they have these muscles and everything. I'm like, eh,
Yeah.
I'm not sure how I'm
That
supposed to feel about that. So
that's
yeah,
too
so
far.
I
That's over the line.
yeah, so I'm like, well, I said I'll just kind of go with this, and I'll figure him out later.
Okay.
But but I started figuring out that I said, I do like figures. I think right now it might be easier for me to do some 1/6 ones, and that's when I came across Lobo
Okay.
and several other things in a local comic book shop. I think they had purchased um, a person's collection. They were selling their figures,
Oh wow.
and
Okay.
so they had him. He was the first one I bought. I also got the sideshow Harley Quinn, sideshow's Catwoman because I'm a huge Catwoman. I love
Heck yeah.
Catwoman.
And was that much
Um,
later,
say what?
or was that much later, or around the same time?
Around the same time
Okay.
because they were the figures they had already purchased them, and I purchased them over a period of time. I said, well, maybe I should go back for Catwoman, and the prices were right because they were only charging about $200 for them, and they were figures that I really enjoyed. So I said, well, I'll go back for them, and then I started going to the sites like AliExpress and stuff, and and then I started. It opened up an entire world
When you're
for me.
online, that's the slippery slope. Once you find out what's out there.
Exactly. Yes, and I started finding these other figures, and most of them were third-party figures, which that's kind of where I really dug in initially. Was I was really enjoying the third-party figures, and when I saw the Hot Toys, I was kind of like, well, they're a lot more expensive, and I can kind of get what I like over here in the third party. I think I'll
There you
buy
go.
that. So that's where I kind of started. And to this day, I still collect a lot of like I love social toys. I love well, Soso is probably my favorite. I do
Mhm.
like the other one, the uh,
Yeah, I'm not huge on the third party, or else I'd throw out some names. But
yeah, I can't I don't know why I can't remember that name. But then I also like the Kit Bash. So I mean,
Mhm.
I keep Feistin and Jowl of doll figures around the house just in case I come across a head sculpt that I want to Kit Bash.
Oh, there you go.
And so I just grab the body, jam the head on. I'm like, okay, now I gotta get some clothes for him, and and that's what I do a lot with my like my Dragon Ball Z figures. I love Dragon Ball Z,
Awesome.
See,
and
Marco laughed when I said there's a real opportunity here. I think Mark had said that his wife had like a fashion design. I was like, she should start making clothes for these
mhm.
collectibles.
Yeah.
Ah,
Oh
caught
no, there
myself,
there
caught
are
myself.
websites that have like full on whatever accessories and clothes you want.
Yeah,
But yeah, you're not
there you
Yeah,
wrong.
go. Because
exactly.
I was thinking
And
the
I
body
and
it doesn't mean anything. You just stick a head on it, and there you go. You
exactly.
have a brand new
And I
toy.
also and I actually do make clothes. I used to make clothes myself when I was a lot younger,
Oh really?
and because yeah, I was a very hard to fit person because I have kind of longer arms, and so my grandfather was a tailor, and my
Oh
mother and
wow.
my middle sister also did a lot of sewing, and I kind of watched them. I said, I can do that. So I basically went and got a pattern and followed it, and my first project didn't turn out bad. So over the years, I've really been able to do a lot with that. So now I'm trying to get back into it. I just have to kind of get my house organized to be able to do that because I mean I have a machine, I have everything it's set up, but I have all these damn toy boxes everywhere. I need to make the space for them.
There
So
you go.
and so as I'm reorganized, I think I'm gonna start getting back into those hobbies also because
Heck yeah.
I really do enjoy sewing and it's easy for me and very relaxing and I would really enjoy coming up with my own version because I like the a lot of the versions that these manufacturers are making,
Hmm.
but sometimes I have an idea of what I want it to look like,
Yeah.
and I'm
If
like,
you've got the
well,
skill set, why not?
yeah, exactly. So I'm hoping to get started with that, maybe fairly soon, but we'll see.
Heck yeah. So you were saying you were on the third party, you were looking at hot toys, like they're a little bit pricey. And then what kind of finally made you make the jump?
Well, I found I can't remember which was my very first actual hot toy that I got, but I remember I said this one is just too good to pass up.
Okay.
And once again, it was before I found all of the stores like um, the overseas stores. I did make an order from Sideshow, and fortunately, it was in stock, so I purchased it, and it got to me very quickly. So I didn't really have bad experiences with Sideshow until I started pre-ordering, and then
Yeah.
realized how slow the process is. But
It's brutal to wait that long for
it
sure.
is, yeah. And then I also I have bought some figures on eBay, which I think I have. I think buying a pre-order from now eBay is completely out for me. If I'm a
Hmm.
pre-order, I'm going to order from a store because I've actually been burnt. As a matter of fact, I had about $1,000 tied up in one store where they never delivered my figures,
Wow,
and
really? This is on eBay?
because it was yeah, on eBay, and because it was past the time where you could either get your money back from eBay or get your money back from PayPal, um, it's kind of up to the seller as to whether or not they're going to deliver it. And they basically shut me off because I was trying to
Wow.
contact them and found myself blocked. I couldn't even send them emails.
That's criminal.
So
That's
so what
crazy.
I did is I created a new site, copied all of my mail and sent it over there. And I said, I'm the one that you cut off. I want my money. Now I'm not Luke Cage, but if I could
Yeah.
have found them, I would have gotten my Fantastic Four meal, flown over there, and got my money. But yeah, so I never got my figures. I never got my money. So I said, well,
Oh,
I
that
said,
is awful.
yeah. And so at least I know not to use that particular vendor. Now, whenever I buy things from eBay, I buy from sources I've had positive interactions with. But I still would prefer to buy from an actual um, store that I dealt with.
Hmm.
And so I have certain stores like, Comic Centorum, Toys Wonderland, KG Hobby, things like that, where I've dealt with them. I've had good interactions with them. And so that's why I buy from them. That's where I get all my buy somebodies because man, their prices at
Good to
KG
know.
stores, oh man, their prices. I mean, I can get a buy somebody for like 40, $50 from them.
Oh,
Now, of course,
really?
it's
Okay.
not counting shipping, but
Yeah.
usually I like to purchase multiple bodies, so it kind of makes the shipping go down a little bit when you're getting more. If I was just ordering one, I wouldn't do it because it wouldn't be
Absolutely.
worth it. But multiple bodies, I kind of get a good deal on it.
See, I'm kind of. Oh, go ahead and say
I was
something.
just gonna say, Equan said don't pre-order from eBay. You only get 90 days
That's great to
protection.
know
Good to
from both of
know.
you,
Exactly.
all the
Right.
cautionary
Yeah.
tales. Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't
I
know.
would never order from them again, unless they say unless it's not a pre-order. If this is a figure that's already been released, that might be the only time I would consider it. But but actually, I found I went to the website for some of the sellers. And I was like, why do I need to go through eBay? I'll just go through the actual seller if I've had a
Yep.
good interaction with them. And so that kind of brought me on into a new store that I could actually deal with. So
And it's interesting, like Tim sent, if you try to buy from eBay, the prices are inflated. You have to pay the
yeah.
taxes and the shipping. If you go on, Toys Buying Agent, I don't normally like to list vendors here, but, for instance, just to give the viewers a tip, then you get it for way cheaper. So,
Yeah,
Marco, I have to tell
definitely.
you something right now.
yeah.
This is really your angle. Please never change this. You look really good right
Well,
now.
okay, thank you.
That's the only compliment I'm ever gonna tell you,
Maybe because
give
all the lights
you.
are off right now, that's why I look good.
But this
I'm
is
one of
your,
those. Huh?
this is it right now.
Oh man,
Okay, you
okay,
found
all
it.
right. Just hold my head here until we're done with the stream.
Gigi, I'm glad that I'm kind of doing a straight on because the last time I was on Pose Wars, I keep my the stream running on my iPad next to me, and there's a delay in it, and I was on there, and I was opposing the figure. I thought I was off camera, I thought I was off camera. I leaned in, and next thing you know, I saw all this neck fat. I was like,
Who
I
is
said, "Is
that?
that the?" I
Who's
was
that
like, "Is
man?
that the back of my head? Is that my neck fat?" I was like, "Oh man, I gotta find a way to do straight on things. I don't want
So,
neck fat showing all over the internet."
Thomas, I had the same experience. Like bending over trying to fold to get something. I'm seeing all my
My
folds on
precious.
my stomach. I'm like, oh, this is not a
Yeah,
good angle
exactly.
for me.
Yeah, it kind of makes me. It kind of makes me want to make sure I go and I do the duck face or something.
Yeah,
Whatever that duck face is, is that how they do it? I don't know. But yeah, all I saw was neck fat, and I was like, that
that's
cannot happen again.
it's a sobering experience sometimes. But we're all looking great today, so that's the good news.
Yeah.
So you mentioned getting into hot toys. I want to talk a little bit about budget, and we don't have to get super personal onto it, but since you're retired, I guess I'm just curious, how do you balance, being retired and kind of, a fixed income stream with collecting, hot toys and other things?
Well, my income stream, while it is pretty steady and regimented, I have a tendency. What I like to do is that I usually will go and do the payment plans. That's the thing that works well for me. And I also my expenses are relatively low. I mean, my house is paid for. The only thing I had to do is pay property taxes and insurance.
Okay, that's the dream. I
So
cannot wait for that day.
yeah, and then of course maintenance. Um, and I I have the money to do that, so that's not a problem. And the money that I bring in, that I budgeted for, um, the only thing I'm having to purchase would be things that I use on a monthly basis. And if I have something special, I just pay for it.
Yeah.
And every once in a while, if I've kind of gone a little bit over what I budget, I'll just pull a little extra money out just to pay it off and
So you
get
have
it
some
back
reserves
down.
you can tap into,
Yeah,
and
I have reserves
there
I
you
can
go.
tap into, but I'm slowing down a lot more these days, because which is good, because just like I hear a lot of collectors saying you don't have to have everything,
Yeah.
and and I found that I don't know that I'm really interested in everything now. Before now, all right, now when I was on dialysis, and even during the time when I was recovering from the surgery after I got the kidney, I spent a good year. That was a After the surgery, it was about a good year of recuperation and kind of recovery. And my sister now, my sister works for herself, but then she also has her inheritance that she can kind of draw on, and she also can work from her computer. So she said one day, when I told her I was getting a kidney, she said, "Okay, um, I'll be that one that if I said when you get the kidney, let me know. I'm going to drop what I do, come down and stay with you, because I needed someone to stay with me for about a month, because I wouldn't be able to drive, I wouldn't be able to
Hmm.
pick up things." And so my sister said, "I'll come down and I'll stay with you." And she stayed with me for about a month and a half.
Wow, that's
And
beautiful.
and which is awesome. I have great siblings, and so
My
she
sisters
she
would
came
never,
up.
but
Really? Oh my
no,
gosh.
I'm sure they would. I'm sure they
Oh,
would.
I hope they would, because yeah, because and like my sister, if she ever needed me, I mean, like even all right, we didn't get to see each other for Christmas because they didn't want to come up until they could get a COVID test, which
Okay,
I appreciate. They were like, "Well, look,
absolutely.
we don't want to do anything to endanger you, so we're gonna make sure we get tested first." They set up a COVID test. My sister actually prepaid for their test, went in for their appointment, which was the day before they were supposed to come up here on Christmas Eve, and the place had sold their test to someone else that they
What in the
prepaid for.
world? Wow.
And it really sucked, and they were hot. But and this is during Omicron, because she said that they were the last appointment for the day. The lady said that they did 100 tests that day, and 80 of them were positive for Omicron.
Wow. Yeah, things
And
were
so
just crazy.
Wow.
yeah, so my sister said, "Look, we don't want to risk it." And I was like, "Okay, well, no problem." So we basically did a live chat. We got on Zoom, had a Zoom thing where we kind of open up presents and stuff like that. Well, it was kind of Christmas in reverse. I opened up all their presents, and then they opened up mine,
That's
and then we
awesome.
said we'll swap them out.
Give them a preview of
That's
And
what they're
so
getting.
cool.
exactly. So what my sister did is that she and my brother-in-law they came up for my birthday, and we went out and had a good time, and it was really funny. I have found that there are a lot more fans, even though I don't have a lot of collector friends locally. A lot of people are interested in it because when I've had work done, like this is my basement, so my furnace is down here. Whenever I've had work done that has to be done for maintenance down here, people come down and every single one at the end of the thing wants to ask me about my toys.
Right.
My
Just
brother-in-law, who
fascinated by it, right?
exactly, my brother-in-law, who I thought had absolutely no interest, which is, he was like, "What?" He said, "This is so cool," and I was like, "What?" I said, "You're kind of interested in my figures," and it was kind of nice because at that point I felt like the normal one for a chance because I have been a nerd my entire life. Okay, I have always been a nerd. I'm a very proud nerd now, but um, but it's nice to see people can appreciate the artistic value. They can appreciate the reason that I collect is because not only are these figures beautiful, but you know, I don't know that I have to have a what they call a connection. As a lot of people say, you got to have the connection. No, I just have to like the figure,
That's right.
and that's all I'm looking for. There. I did not. Well, I'm not a gamer. I have very poor hand-eye coordination. So, but I remember I bought the Final Fantasy game. I couldn't play it, but I was drawn by the artwork. And so when that Cloud figure came out, I said, I remember Final Fantasy. That figure was so awesome. I said, I want it. I have no connection to the game, but I love the figure.
Sometimes there are
And
just figures that just stand out. They just look so cool.
sometimes
You
there's
have to
things
have
that
it.
stand out. And like I'm a huge Walking Dead fan. I have the entire Walking Dead figures. Those
Oh my
what was
gosh.
it 330
Three
I
zero.
forget.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have just about everyone. I even bought the animals. Like I got dog. I bought dog. Daryl's dog.
Oh,
I
you went
bought.
all in.
I did. I bought Sheba. So I've got Ezekiel's lion. I mean tiger. And even now this is when I another show and tell. This is
Oh, whoa.
well, she's going to be a saber-toothed tiger. I got to make her her teeth and find a way to adhere them. But what I did is that I kit bashed two figures from the comic books that I'm a huge fan of, and that's Shayna the She Devil and Kazar. And
What? These
and
are awesome.
so
These are Feisen bodies, right?
yeah, Feist. Well, she's Feist and he's Jile.
Okay.
But yeah, and actually, well, this is not rooted, but actually, this is hair that I did
Oh
on
wow.
him.
Whoa, you do it all,
Uh,
Thomas?
well, I have plenty of time to take classes,
Oh,
so
that's how
I
you
do a
learn.
lot of
Okay.
online classes, yeah,
That's
and so I've
awesome.
been playing
You go,
around with
Gigi.
that. But yeah, so I go and I have him. I said, well, because I have my X-Men figures upstairs. I was like, you know what? I should actually put together Kazar and Sheena, and maybe do a Savage Land thing, display.
There you go.
So I'm kind of working different things, and coming up with little ideas, that kind of pop through my head, and I just enjoy the fact that it brings me joy to find my creative outlets again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because sometimes I think when all you do is work. And I worked for 12 and a half years in a drug treatment facility. I actually ran their HIV prevention and case management program there. So we did testing, we did case management for people who were affected by HIV and AIDS, and and then also a lot of these people had drug and alcohol problems.
Mhm.
we also did classes for people who had drug and alcohol issues, but maybe weren't infected. But we being able to reach out and give to them was, all of my jobs have kind of involved giving.
Hmm.
And there comes a point that when you give and give and give and you don't take the time to receive or to give back to yourself, you just kind of wind up a little bit empty.
It just
And
sounds like you
so,
spent so much of your life, contributing to others. Absolutely, we get that sense.
yeah, and it's not like it's a burden, but I start remembering, I start to think that it's also important to do self-care. And it's important to still do the things that bring you enjoyment.
Gigi's learning a lot about this. She gives so
I
Yeah, I
I
much
mean,
have
away.
a hard time with that, and I think that's why I'm like I don't get it because my line of work is like a lot of it entails a lot of like social work and stuff like that, and so I'm just
oh
like,
yeah,
but anyway, this is not about me.
No, I just
yeah,
finding
but
that
um,
but
related
yeah,
tissue right there.
but being able to have that balance, because I too had my caseworkers that I used to work with. That was something. Now I would always stress it for them. Of course, I wasn't following my own prescription, but I kept telling them. I said, "Listen, be able to separate yourself from that person. Their problems are theirs. They don't belong to you, but your job is to help them find solutions that they can work, something that's good for them. But don't take it on your shoulders as it's your responsibility to make their life better. The only person that can do it is them."
Wow, yeah.
And and so so just being able to try to find that balance. And then after when I left work, I realized how unbalanced I was. And so that's why I've kind of gotten back into my hobbies. And that's the reason why I got Magic. When I got her, I was in a deep depression because at that point I had been on dialysis for about 5 years. And I finally said, you know what? I'm not going to get a kidney. I'm just going to accept the fact that this is my life now and just deal with it. And so I got the dog because she, at least for the times during the day, helped me to forget about a lot of those things. And then, as soon as I resigned myself to live on that, a month later, oh, I have to tell you this. This is the funniest story, and actually the coolest thing. I've never had anything like this happen to me. It was a Sunday morning. I was just kind of laying in bed watching. Oh, in addition to Judge Judy, I also like watching World's Dumbest. When they do those reruns. So
Yeah.
World's Dumbest plays on here, and I was watching it Sunday morning, and I got a call that I didn't recognize, so I just picked it up, and they said, "Well, this is the hospital. Said we're calling this to let you know that we have a kidney available and want to see if you want it." I said, yeah," and so I said, "Well." I said, but of course, kidney recipients have to realize that you literally have to drop what you're doing and be able to go to the hospital. I said, well, let me before I commit to it, can I give you a call back? I just have to make sure I can make arrangements for my dog. So I called
And
up
you had
one
to
of my
finish
best
the
friends.
episode too, right?
Well, no, that I was able to let go of was the episode. So I called up one of my best friends and asked him. I said, "Listen, could you?" I said, "I have a kidney. I need to go in. Could you watch Magic for me and take care of her? My sister will be in town soon, but and she'll be in town in the next couple of days. And if she's too much, we can take her off your hands." And they said, "Look, don't worry. We love Magic too. We'll take care of her,
That's awesome.
as long as you need." I said, "Okay." So I went in, had my surgery. It was from a deceased donor. And so they went in, they brought me in. They kind of gave me the rundown. I went in. They said, "You probably have spent about 2 days in intensive care, 2 days in regular room, and then we'll release you." So that was on Sunday, the 17th of March. Went in. They had the surgery sometime around maybe 10, 11 o'clock at night. And I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning. I was in intensive care, but I was feeling really good. I just woke up and I buzzed the lady. I said, "Listen," I said, can I get up and sit in a chair?" I said, "I'm just kind of laying in this bed. It's kind of getting on my nerves. I really need to kind of." And they said, "Sure, but we need to attend some other people first." So they got me up. I was sitting in the chair watching probably just Judy or
There
something.
you go.
And so they brought me some lunch. I ate my lunch. Then they come down. a little bit later on, they said, okay, well, we're just going to move you, and then when we move you, I said, wait a minute, well, am I just moving to another room down the hall? I didn't know if they had to like slide you to a different place. They said, no, you're leaving intensive care. We're putting you into. I said, wait a minute. The doctor said I need to be in intensive care for 2 days. I need to be in a regular room for two. They said, no, they said, you are doing so well. I said, most patients don't get up out of bed the day after they had surgery. I said, really? And
Wow.
so they moved me to intensive care. I'm there for like a day. I get a couple of visits from the doctor. Then a nurse comes in and said, well, we got to tell you, this is really unusual. They said, what happened is that the kidney that you received went to, when it became available, it went to 41 other hospitals who couldn't accept it because most of them said, we're doing too many transplants. So it took about four, I think we were the 41st or 42nd hospital. Then when it got to Baptist, they offered it to two people before me, and they both declined. So I was like, well, hey, I'll take
Yeah.
Oh my
I'll take this
Yeah.
kidney.
It's like a
And
sideshow second kidney right here. It'd been
exactly, yeah. And so I was like, that's kind of cool. At the end of the first day in the regular room, the next morning, which would have been day two, I'm sitting here talking on the phone with a friend. She was somebody who's also she's on dialysis, and I was telling her about my experience. I said, yeah, I got the kidney and this, that, and the other. Then about 7 or 8 people walk into the room, wearing white coats and stuff. And I was like, what the hell? So I'm just sitting here. I'm still talking on the phone because my sister was down at Starbucks getting a thing. I said they can wait until my sister gets there. So I'm told, no, 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 no. And then my doctor, he was in the group, and they were just standing there looking at me. And my doctor said, he's always like this. He's always on the telephone when I come in. I'm like, Doc, I said, well, why are you all here? They said, well, listen, if you don't mind, you can put your friend on speakerphone if you don't mind her hearing this. I said, sure. No, we just wanted to let you know that we're releasing you. You're going home today. I was like, what? I said, no, Doc. I was supposed to be in intensive care for 2 days, and then I'm supposed to be in a regular room for 2 days. I've only been in intensive care one day. I've only been in this room a full day. And they said, no, they said, this kidney is kind of unusual. That you have a deceased person's kidney, and it operating as if it was a living donor gave it to you. They said it didn't because as soon as they plugged it in, it started working immediately.
wow.
Usually, it takes a little time for it to start up, and the kidney started right up. They said your creatinine levels have dropped to normal levels
I got
completely.
chills, Thomas. I got chills.
It's
Wow, and
incredible.
it was amazing. Now, of course, I still was a little leery about going home early, but they said, listen, they said we want you to get out of the hospital as soon as possible because they said, look, the hospital is where all the germs are. We don't want you to be around germs any more than you have to be,
Yeah.
and you're healthy enough to go back. So I went home, and I had a few adjustment issues because like when my kidneys turned back on, I stopped producing urine 4 years before then. I mean, I had not gone to the bathroom in 4 years, literally,
I didn't even know
because
that was
my
a thing. Holy
well, yeah,
cow.
I mean, my kidneys essentially just stopped functioning, and so I was no longer producing any urine. I was producing a lot of urine with this new kidney, and I was like,
It's
and
working.
yeah, I had literally forgotten how to go to the bathroom, so my body was having to relearn and everything, and it was the weirdest thing because I was like, how? I said, how do you forget how to pee? And but after 4 years, I guess it's kind of like you got to relearn some things. But I mean, that was the closest experience I've had that has been to a miracle. I have never had anything like that happen to me in my life, but it was absolutely amazing, and
It is a
that's the reason
miracle.
why, yeah, and that's the reason why I'm always so happy to talk to people about about considering donations and stuff because it's so important, and the change it can make in someone's life is just mind-boggling. I mean, if I had anything good enough to donate, then I would gladly donate anything that if I'm not here, let somebody use it if they can. So yeah, it's amazing. But yeah, that's been my experience,
That is
and
beautiful. Thank you for
yeah.
sharing that.
And so, Thomas, I do have to say, so after I heard you and Zach talking about it, I think he mentioned that he had donated like bone marrow.
Yeah.
Um, so I had actually, so it was kind of funny. I actually, back when I think I was like 19, I donated blood. Um, and they have like you can sign up during one of those events to be like a donor. And so I had signed up, but like I was young, I didn't really know how it worked. I submitted my information and I don't ever remember swabbing. I was like maybe they'll send me something in the mail. I'm not really sure how this works, but I like gave my information. And after
Hmm.
I heard you and Zach talking about it, I was like, I don't know if I ever like submitted the swab. I should probably call. Um, and so I did because so unfortunately my mom was diagnosed with cancer last year, and so
Hmm.
being in the hospital and like because my sister and I are kind of her caretakers,
Hmm.
and so being in that just everybody like in the cancer centers and stuff like that, you really get really get to see and it really how it takes a toll on the family and all of that. So I was like I should really call, and so I did. And luckily I saw like it reminded me and prompted me to do that because I called and they're like, oh yeah. And I came to Marco and I was like, oh my god, I'm like kicking myself. And Marco does a good job at like you couldn't have known, but they didn't have my updated information. And apparently I did the swab, like they had everything. I was like, I don't
Oh
remember that
wow.
at all. um, and so I actually called and I said I just want to make sure like am I in your system, like I just want to make sure that I'm on the list or whatever. And they're like, yeah, actually they called you in 2015, but no, we didn't get a hold of you. And I was like, can you tell me what email you have or like what number? I don't even think they had an email. I think they had an old phone number. So I was able to like update all my information. And so thank you and Zach for like kind of reminding me of that. And yeah, they're like, okay, you're good to go. You're on the list. So that was
Wow.
amazing.
So let me
That
ask
is so
Thomas this
awesome.
because there's some
Yeah.
dogs whiling over here. So
Uh-huh.
are there any other tips that you have on folks like to donate or get on lists or get your information updated?
Well, actually, if it's a kidney in particular, but I think you can actually I would have to find that email. I think it's God, is it organdonors.com or something. Um, like with the kidneys, I know what it is for my particular center. They had like their own email, but there is a national register, I believe, that you can get on. I'll have to let me see if I can look up and find it, and I'll give it to you. And then if you want to add a link or something like that to your
Okay,
to the thing, then we can
that'd
put
be
it in there for you.
And I
that'd
But
be
think
uh,
in
beautiful.
but
Thank you.
I think in California, it's actually I don't know, and I'm assuming it might be similar in other states, but you can actually become a donor. Like, that's why you have like the little donor on
Mm-hmm.
your driver's license and
yes,
stuff like that.
exactly.
I know
Hmm.
for bone marrow, it's a lot of the time at like blood. When you donate blood, they have like
Hmm.
fairs and stuff like that. So it's relatively easy. I think you can also just go online and like ask for a packet. They mail you a swab. Apparently, they swabbed me or I swabbed myself. I don't remember this. I was like, oh wow,
Hmm.
it is very easy to get somebody's DNA. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, I think you can just go online. I think it's like bethematch.org or something like that.
Okay.
Oh wow. Yeah, but it's I mean it's such a cool thing, and um it's just kind of nice knowing that there was a person who's no longer here who thought, and well, actually, and it's really interesting. They weren't sure if I wanted it or not, but I think it was from a person who died of an overdose, and they said the fact that it was an overdose, it doesn't affect the organ. I said, listen, if you're saying, tell me that the organ is perfectly fine, um, I don't have any judgments or any problems with somebody just because they were had a drug problem. I said I've worked with people that were addicted for 12 and a half years, and they're people too, and if somebody wanted to make sure they could give something forward and I can be the recipient, then I'm going to honor their wish.
Absolutely.
And hey, like I said, it changed my life. I mean, there are things that I can do now that I wasn't able to do for a long time. And what's really funny, all right, so I spent a year recovering. And as soon as was feeling really energetic, I said, oh, good. Next year, I'm gonna plan some travels because I love Hawaii. I've been there
Heck yeah.
with two of my friends who went on a trip. I said, I want to go back to Hawaii. Maybe I'll go. Maybe I'll plan a trip this year.
What island were
And
you?
oh, I was actually on Kauai,
Okay.
and I want to go back there again so bad. It's the most beautiful place. And well, I'd like to see the other islands, but Kauai is like that's my haven right there.
That's what we
And
hear.
yeah, but of course, as soon as I'm ready to start making plans, that's when COVID hits. so
Of
so I've been
course.
at home for 2 years. And so during that time, and so a lot of times that was one of the things why I kind of probably the reason why I got so many figures so quickly is because getting the packages in the mail was the thing I'd look forward to every single day. I mean,
Preaching to the
I said,
choir
oh,
here, Thomas.
yeah, I get a package. Oh boy, let me open it up. And also because my mailman was, we would always interact and talk a little bit, and so I was getting interaction with people,
Yes.
with person rather, and then also I was getting presents. Okay, presents I
That's
bought for
right.
myself, but we'll just call that I was a beneficiary of retail therapy. So hey,
That's right. And Gigi doesn't always understand that. She's like, you get so many treats every month, and I'm just like, you got to do what makes you happy. Treat yourself. If it's in the budget, then I
yeah,
go for it.
And I do have to. I'm sorry. I meant to say this earlier. So Thomas, you said something that's like really important. Obviously, you're retired now. You did it right, and you had opportunities that allowed you to do this and have that. I think that a lot when we're younger, we kind of forget, right, that at some point we're gonna have to stop working, and so
yeah,
I think it's really important what you mentioned that now we're thinking like 401ks and stuff like that, and so
mhm,
I think when Marco first started, I mean, we're thinking ahead, we're thinking about our futures and our retirements. Like we have mentioned, we have an investment property that we're,
yeah,
if anything else fails, like hopefully that will but we're also, and that was the thing, like you have to make sure and you budget, and that's what we do talk about when we budget, is you have to make sure that you're not, yeah, yes, treat yourself, but also think about like
yeah,
how to treat yourself in the future, and be
hmm
smart about your money. And I think that's why, like, it's wild to me that really young people like collect. I mean, that's great that you collect, but like, how do
Mhm.
you have so many toys,
And we do want to get, KG and Riley have been doing their streams together. So we do want to get, either individually or together to kind of talk about how a young person's perspective, because I couldn't imagine, being into that hobby when I was younger, but it's
Oh
awesome that
yeah,
they are.
exactly. Yeah, I don't know how they do it. So they either, I mean, I wouldn't have been able to, I wouldn't have all of the figures that I have now, all the stuff in general, if I were that age, because I mean, this is not a cheap hobby,
No, it's not.
and but it's but yeah, you're right, Gigi. I think the important thing is to like what my investment broker told me. He said, just remember, and what my mother used to always say. My mother was such a wise woman. She always used to say, "Pay yourself first. Whenever you get your money, pay yourself." And she's like, "Yeah." She said, "Take." I was like, "Pay yourself." I said, "But I just got paid." She said, "No. When you get your money, take out the money that belongs to you and put it aside and invest it or do something like that. Pay yourself before you start buying things. Buying things isn't paying yourself. Paying yourself means taking your money and making your money work for you."
Absolutely.
And so, and that's something that if I decide to start this channel and let's say it becomes popular, if I get to a point of being monetized, I definitely want to take those assets and continue to pay myself because, you know, I I want to be able to not only take care of myself, but I want to leave some of myself behind for other people. Like even like if I have enough money left over, I would love to even set up a fund for different people, like it could be like a college fund or something for some young people, or maybe even looking out for my younger cousins and things. I just want to be able to give something back so that they can live their lives better than maybe me or their parents got a chance to live. And
That's
that I
beautiful.
think that would be the ultimate gift, is to be able to give something back to somebody so they don't have to struggle quite as hard.
I agree, Thomas. You and I are very
Yeah.
similar.
And,
Mhm.
and just to give Gigi's perspective again, I think she sees how expensive these toys are, and she's like, "Oh, that's so much that you spend on yourself when it could be going to others." And there's definitely, the guilt that that we discuss, where it's like, yeah, it is a very selfish collecting could be very selfish sometimes, but it's beautiful. You're thinking about how to be well rounded and how to balance.
Yeah, and so and even with this, like even my brother-in-law, he'd even mentioned to me, he said, "Look," he said, "you have assets here now. You should consider protecting them." And I was like, "Well, hey, you're right about that. I have a collection that's probably worth quite a bit now. And I mean, I've literally got hundreds of figures now. I mean,
Oh gosh.
most of them are not even out of. I have most of them are
Don't
still in
scare me,
boxes.
Thomas. Don't scare me.
I'm sorry. And
My palms are sweating.
so I'm like, well, I probably need to, what I need to do is kind of do an inventory, find out what I have, um, and then I need to insure it. I need to
There you
insure
go.
these property, so that if anything happens to it, maybe I can't recover everything, but at least I'll be able to do something with it. And if not, then that will be something that I can have assets, then I can maybe reinvest or something. But 'cause I said, but even like now, I just want to be able to share things. I'm not like one of those people that probably would want to, or would necessarily think I'm good at um, reviewing. I just
Hmm.
know what I like, but I know how to play. So why not get out the toys that I have, and even just get on there and just play with them? Say, this is his figure. You know, hey, look at that. Do some posing with it. And like I said, I like telling stories.
Yeah.
Tell some stories, and talk about experiences, and just say, find what brings you the joy, and then find a way to. I think I often hear Judge Mathis saying that. That's another one of my guilty
Yeah,
pleasures.
that's right.
Judge Mathis always likes to tell people. He said the best thing I can tell a young person is to find something you love and then find a way to get paid for it. And I'm like, well, hey, I'm youngish. I can I love collecting. Maybe I should try to figure out a way to get paid for it, or find some way to get paid for involvement in that.
There you go.
So yeah, so I'm running some things up the flagpole
Okay.
and seeing what waves.
Okay.
And I think it's really interesting because, like you mentioned, you like the not so popular ones. Like Lobo. I've never even heard of him, but and that's pretty cool just to see. And this other, the doll that you brought out. Do you call it a doll?
Mhm.
Is it a doll? I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, that's
I
yeah,
don't
that's a
mean no
ball joint. No,
disrespect.
you know, no, yeah, I here's the thing with me. They're dolls.
That's right.
These 12 inch, they're dolls.
That's
But I'm
you want to read
I'm
that
like,
one?
hey, whatever makes you feel comfortable. It doesn't bother me. Dolls, action figures.
That's
Um,
right.
it's just it's my hobby. So
Call it whatever the
call
fuck
it
you want.
call it whatever you like.
And I'm gonna have Gigi read this one from Mario because Mario, thank you for
Okay.
joining.
And Mario said, "Shout out to Thomas, amazing story, bros." Okay, don't do that because I can't see.
It's
Oh
right
my
there.
God, sir,
It's
you
on the screen.
okay? Don't. Are you gonna read it or am I gonna read
Ma'am,
it?
not in front of my friends.
Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry, I'm gonna start over.
Okay,
Don't touch it. I'll
compose
cut that hand
ourselves.
off. Shout
Wow,
out to
violence
Thomas.
now.
Amazing story, bro. So happy you're able to get a kidney the way it worked out. My mom is a two-time dialysis patient and can completely
Mm,
relate to what you've gone through.
wow.
Thanks for sharing that, Mario and Thomas. Yeah, it's really really
Yes.
cool to know your stories.
Mm.
So
God bless your mom. God bless your
yes,
mom. Yeah, because I tell you.
Yeah, she is doing a lot better. It was really tough. She had two chemo treatments that didn't work. So she's been getting
Mhm.
chemo since April of last year. They had to move on from chemo because chemo wasn't working. And this new treatment, she's not in remission yet, but knock on wood, I think
Yeah.
it's they're seeing progress. So that's all we can hope for. She's feeling a lot better now. She's eating and one of the things that she hated from the hospital was the hospital food. She is
Oh,
a great cook.
Thomas doesn't know he didn't
Yeah.
spend any time in the hospital.
whew, that
That's
hospital. You know, but you know what? The best diet I've ever been on has been the hospital diet. I tell you what, I lost so much weight.
Yeah. Oh my god. And I do.
Sweet.
And the streams. So when I, because of the treatment, because it wasn't chemo, we had to go to the Bay Area. To do it there. We had to stay there for a month and a half
Mhm.
because of the treatment. She had to be close to the hospital, and so it was actually funny because the streams was one of the ways that Marco and I kind of stayed connected, because whenever he would be on, I'd kind of hop on. We weren't seeing each other. I was at the
She'd
hospital a lot
jump
of the
on, talk a little
time.
shit about me
Yeah,
in the
that's really
chat.
how it started, because I was away, with my mom. Like I mentioned, my sister and I have been her caretakers, so I was away. So Marco really found, I think, like that connection to the community. I think that's why I'm so drawn to it, because I do think that we found it, or I found it during like a difficult time. It's a lot for
Mhm.
him, to be away for so long, and he was a single dad to pancake for a while, and so I really appreciated that. Obviously, as you mentioned, Thomas, it really affects the entire family, and so
Mhm.
Marco would hop on, and so that would be a way, that I would be able to see him. I was able to like study at the same time, take care of my mom at the same time, and so it was really. I really do think that that's why I'm like so drawn to this community, because it also allowed me and Marco to have that connection during a really difficult time. And I've actually don't know that I've ever said that to Marco. Let's not get used to this
Wow, yeah.
this
You're right.
to this mushiness,
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
yeah.
you got to keep them humble.
That's
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
so Thomas, I do
Wow, that's
have,
some good.
oh, sorry to cut you off,
No,
but
go ahead.
I did have a question, and kind of this relates back to when you were younger again. And I know we said we'll keep it to about an hour 30, so maybe we'll finish with some two questions here. But
Okay.
when you were younger, growing up the time you did, how was the comic book collecting kind of perceived? I know you said now you own it, like call it dolls, call it whatever you want, but how was it being into the more nerdy stuff growing up in the '60s?
Well, uh, well, actually, most of my nerdtacularness, I'll call it, I'm making up as many words as I can
Love
involving the
it.
word
I'm
nerd.
gonna steal that one.
But um, that was more in the maybe late '70s when I was a
Okay.
teenager. I think the thing that got me really into it was when I was in the sixth, when I was in elementary school. My mother uh, actually had me in a school that was out of my district, but she wanted me to go there. And so it was an excellent school. It's called Brunston Elementary School, and she would basically drive me there. And then, like kids in my neighborhood who also went there, a lot of times we were carpool. Um, you know, one of the friends that I would carpool with, their mama had a station wagon. You know how I don't know if y'all remember station wagons,
I think
and
Yeah.
both
in
of
the
our
station
families did.
wagon, the back seat was one that you could flip out, and there would be a seat that faced the back of the thing. And me and my friend would always want to sit there and sit in that back seat and look out take the ride looking out the back window. And there are these two little hills, oh, not hills, but in the road, there's like we had like an embankment going up into onto like a road that kind of went up. And so, of course, when you're riding down the highway, there's a little hill that goes over that to kind of blend it in with the rest of the highway. And so whenever we do that, we act like we're going on the roller coaster. City. Whee! Just having ourselves a good time like we're on the roller coaster. And but yeah, so we would so that I had there, but when I went to junior high school, my mother put me back on where I was actually bused off to a place that's in my district, and it was called Walkertown Junior High School. That was for seventh and eighth grade. And on the bus, I think my first day, I met one of my two best friends. Um, my best friend Otho, that's my boy. He's my boy to this day.
That's beautiful.
And we were we met and we both found out we were in the comic books. We loved X-Men, and so we would do stuff like we would fan cast the X-Men's movie and talk about who we would want to see. Of course, there are like '70s people that nobody knows about these days, but we said, oh, this could be Professor X, and this would be Storm, and we would fan cast. and he was my collecting buddy. And so one, I had one solid friend that we were really into comic books. So I didn't really have friends that were into figures, but we were into really into comics. And so that's kind of where I got that. And at that point, that was when I was kind of the age where once I hit high school and even a little bit into junior high, my mother was working at my dad's office. She would kind of help manage the office and keep the books and stuff like that. And so she would actually be at work with my dad. So when I come home, I would just be there alone. So of course I didn't have there weren't really any kids in my neighborhood. There was uh, my neighborhood is a set of two blocks with a golf course that ran along our backyards.
Okay.
So the second block over was where another group of kids lived, and I was a school age one of them, but they were way on the other block. I was really at the opposite end of it over here, and mom was like, "When you come home, you need to come home, do what needs to be done around the house, do your schoolwork and everything." So basically, my comic books, television. At that point, I wasn't watching Judge Judy. But I was
It's
watching
unfortunate.
The Little Rascals. That's
Okay.
when they used to play reruns of The Little Rascals and stuff. So I watched Little Rascals and stuff like that until they got home. And so that was me for quite a few years. When I got old enough to drive, then I would kind of get out and go and hang out with friends a little bit once I kind of completed most of my work. But yeah, those are my nerd and also okay, let me take that nerd level and let's amp it up to the next level. I was also in the band. Okay, so I was in
Okay.
the
All right.
band.
I had a
I
lot of friends
played.
in the band, so
Yeah, so I was a band nerd also. Not only was I a band nerd, um, from ninth grade until 12th grade, I was a drum major for the band. So I was the ultimate nerd. Okay, but I love nerds and nerd stuff. I mean, doing stuff like that. And it was really funny. I people when I was in high school, I don't know that I thought people thought it was kind of cool, but
Mhm.
as an adult, I've had friends of mine from high school that would come up and say, "Man, I remember when you were in the band and you would do that." I was like, "Wait a minute, why didn't you tell me that was cool then? I thought I was a nerd."
They
So
couldn't admit it back
I'm
then.
like, I was like, "Come on, man, what's up with that? Y'all should have let me know I was all that then. Maybe I,
Thomas, some of the
I'm."
I was just gonna say, some of the coolest people that I knew were actually in the band, and
Oh,
like I
really?
played on the basketball team. I told them one of the important games. I was like, "You got to come out and play Eye of the Tiger before our game," and I just remember that was like one of the most hyped moments. So,
The hell they
yeah,
were.
Yeah.
I was in the band in elementary school. I played the flute.
Were you? Flute, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was on baritone, trumpet and baritone. They were my two primary instruments.
I do
And
have a question
yeah,
about. So I've always wondered this, and I have to assume that it's like just what we see in movies and stuff. But like the term nerd, like somebody, I think one time, somebody said something about like the nerd. I think that I was talking about Mark. Like maybe I was talking about like a figure or something, and somebody said something like, "Oh, like the something nerd," and I was about to fight them. I was like, "Excuse me."
it's just
But I had to like take a step back and I was like, where I think now maybe the term nerd is not like used with the naked. I don't know.
well, because what is nerdy? Like
That's
some of
what
the
I'm
most
saying. Like
popular
where
movies are based on comic books now. So like,
yeah,
my
that's what I'm
sisters watch
saying.
that stuff. Are they
Yeah.
nerds?
So
Yeah,
I
they are little
wonder,
mhm,
nerds,
yeah, I'd
but
have to
yeah,
ask my nieces, like, what are nerds in
yeah,
school now, right?
yeah. I'm not quite sure. I don't know that kids today necessarily think of these things as nerdy because it becomes so mainstream. But back when I was a kid, um, I think that they were seen as more childish. You know, you're a teenager, you're a high school, you should be doing high school
yeah,
stuff. Not that stuff's for kids. Don't
that's
don't
right.
do that. I think that's where a lot of it came from. But like I said, it's always been a part of me, and I can't help what's a part of me.
That's right.
Um, it's something that and I think that because like I said, I didn't always let everybody know that I collected comic books and
Hmm.
stuff. I mean, that was kind of between me and my friends. Now I kind of like don't really care who knows it, and I'll talk about it. But see, the thing is that as an adult, I also know what's going on in the world. I also appreciate things. I appreciate fine dining. I appreciate a lot of things that are adult in nature necessarily, but I also love the things that make me feel young, the things that make
Yeah,
me
being
feel
He
adult
likes to
alive.
sit.
sucks.
Yeah.
It does. It does. It really does. I mean, if I could go back in time, well, no, I wouldn't. Uh, I was about to say if I could go back and just be a, but no, no, those 20s. I could erase the 20s. I could erase half of the 30s. I think that when I got into my 40s, that was when I really start feeling, yeah, I'm
Came into
kind of
your
getting in
own
my
there.
groove now. I think I'm getting the hang of this, and it wasn't, you know, I, but I kind of felt like at that point, I think as you get older, you come to the point where you just don't really care as much about what people think.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're kind of like, well, I'm myself. If you don't like it, nobody asked you to come to my house.
That's
Okay,
right.
you
Only.
don't you didn't have to come over here. If you don't like what's happening in my house, leave. But for
That's
example, all
right.
right, we had I had a friend um,
Leave it up and read it.
who came over as a house guest and had come down into the basement. And this particular friend was not as enthusiastic about my collection.
Hmm.
Never told me verbally what she did,
Oh, that's the.
but my sister heard about it, and I had now. Have you ever seen the Vampirella figure?
I don't know that I have. No.
Vampirella, it was a comic book of a woman who is a vampire, and you should Google her and see. She wears a kind of like a slingshot one piece
Of
Ah.
course.
Okay. You know
out.
what?
Yeah, it's
See,
red. It barely covers the boob.
Of
I know
It,
who
it,
of
it
this is
course.
now.
I mean, yeah.
Ah, yes, I remember it well.
Yes.
Okay,
I.
that's Vampirella. And then she wears these patent leather stiletto heeled boots, and she was on my display along with some other figures. And this particular friend said, "Oh yeah, I was downstairs and I saw his pornographic figures." I was like, "Pornographic? What?" I said, "What? Which figures?" I figured. I said she must be talking about Vampirella, but I was like, I said, look, you haven't seen pornographic until you've seen some of those spice and bodies with the
That's
members
right.
attached. If I show you one of
Yes.
those, you'll then be saying it's pornographic.
Then she'll
But I
probably
was like,
pass out at that point.
exactly. But I was like, well, yeah, hey, nobody. I said, but I was glad that I didn't hear about it because I would have been likely to say something. And I'm not somebody who likes to be mean, but I'm like, listen, if you don't like something, you don't have to openly criticize something when someone is being generous to you and offering you hospitality. Sometimes when someone offers you hospitality, you just say thank you and
That's
you
right.
keep it to yourself.
That's right. You don't
But
have to
uh,
bad
but but
talk
yeah, I said
somebody's.
yeah, exactly. So I'm like, yeah, thank you for. I said thank you for not telling me that because yeah, I would have been likely to show you some pornographic figures
That's
then.
right.
I mean, I would
Next
I would have
time.
taken I would have taken the biggest one out of the fights and said, glued it on. I said, here you go,
Oh
take
man,
it
the
home
Danny
with
Lee
you.
special. That's no, but we were talking about different terms like nerd. I hate the term
Uh-huh.
gamer as well,
Mm,
only because like it like puts you into a box. I hate being put into a box. It's like
yeah,
my hobbies don't define who I am. Like I like a lot of different stuff. Like you said, you like fine dining. I like we like travel. It's like like I like you don't call me a Judge Judy head just because I enjoy watching Judge Judy. I mean, so it's yeah. There's I think people could be well rounded, and I hate the stigma
yeah.
around these things. But I love
I
that
know
we just embrace it and just it makes us happy.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
Mark
and
said, hold on, he said, I hid my nerd in high school, feel like a fraud, but telling girls how the forced word was not
Yeah,
good pickup
it's
line. Not according to Cuervo. Well, actually, Cat.
and then he said once his wife got the ring, he went full nerd. Maybe there's something to that though. The ladies don't always want to hear about that, so
that's
you kind
right.
of suppress the.
The ring was the force. That
That's
that
right.
was the force.
That's right. Yeah, people hear gamer, they think you sit on your ass all day screaming into a headset.
Well, they're
I
not
do, but
wrong.
yeah, I do sit on my ass all day, just not straight. But so Thomas, I think we're just about at the 1 hour 30 mark. This has been a really awesome conversation. I
Wow.
wish I would go for 2 more hours today.
I know, because I'm having a
Right,
ball.
we really are. But yeah, so how about you tell us a little bit more about your channel, kind of what you're thinking, and when you might be thinking you might get it off the ground.
Okay. I don't have a specific time when I think I'll get it off the ground. I'm still kind of planning, and then I also have to figure out the best way to film. Those are things I don't really know anything about. Um, but I already have an Instagram. I was able to set that up, and so it's
Okay,
under
what's
SpongeBob.
your Instagram handle?
Oh, it's under SpongeBob underscore square underscore balls.
Okay, and balls with an S and not with a Z, right?
Yeah, BALS. Uh-huh.
Okay.
And so I haven't really had a lot of activity on there yet, but that's probably where I'm going to post some of my figures and stuff. And I might, I think I want to start being trying to do some creative shots with them and maybe work on some different backgrounds and stuff. And I'm also really kind of excited about this. I really want to start working on some dioramas.
Oh,
And
really? Okay.
yeah, that's what I really want to do. And so, like I said, I mean, I've got lots of materials around the house to do all these hobbies. I'm just not doing it. So I think I just need to just sit down and just say, this is my time to create,
Hmm.
do it, and then just like I actually have some figures that are for example,
Let's see. I love the
I've
show and
been
tell here.
I have been working on making my X-Men Beast. This is him so far.
Oh
Oh, whoa, that
wow.
looks awesome.
Yeah, he's on a Feisum. It was a Feisum white body,
Mhm.
and what I did is that I took oil-based pastel chalks and basically just smeared the skin because
Whoa.
the good thing about this about silicone is that silicone does stain. Silicone and just about every other rubber and or plastic can stain.
Okay.
So I took advantage of that. For example, if you've ever had a figure that was wearing wearing black and then you it had the rubberized body. You
Hmm.
took off the body and saw that it was kind of grayish or something. It stained the it, the the fibers that were holding that ink bleached into the rubber.
Got it.
So
Okay.
you can stain it, but you also not only can stain it because it's silicone. You can actually buy silicone paints
Okay.
and you can paint it. So after I'm actually going to try to finish staining his body, and then I'm going to go over it with some silicone paint to try to match the color. And then after I do that, then I'm going to start gluing hair onto the body.
Oh,
And by the
awesome.
Wow.
time I'm
Okay.
done, then that's the way when I'm done, I'll have the beast that I want, the more
Okay.
comic book
Yeah.
accurate one.
See,
And so that's what.
I would
That's
love that content on your channel to kind of see all the tips and tricks that you have for customization.
oh
Because
yeah.
I think there maybe are a handful of channels that talk about similar stuff, but what you
Hmm.
just pulled out right there was like incredible. I want to know how you how you did more of that
Oh okay.
visually.
Yeah.
So
So that may be something I have to figure out how to do it because and also like with me, I got to figure out how to do it like in the time lapse because usually I'm sitting around, I get bored, and I'm like, hey, I wonder what this will do, and then I'll start doing it. Next thing you know, I'm doing it, and by the time I've done, I'm like, oh man, I should have filmed that. So I got to work on stuff like that, and also like even like just little handy tricks like how sometimes people complain, and I definitely see this with ankles. You know how the little ankle pegs sometimes you put after a while you start getting really loose and wobbly.
oh heck yeah, some just come wobbly like the Thor figures, right?
Exactly. Get yourself some of this, or just get yourself some Saran wrap. I actually buy this on
Oh,
eBay.
okay,
It's basically a roll of ceramic. I mean of it's basically cling wrap,
okay,
but it's on a small scale. But you can just get cling wrap, and what you do is that you tear off some cling wrap and you tightly wrap it around about maybe three or four things around that ball joint on the
okay.
foot, and then you pull it until it snaps off and then press it down, it because it clings, it holds onto itself. You press into that thing and then it's not going to move
Whoa.
because and it only takes a couple of rotations because that cling wrap is also kind of gives it a little bit of tooth. You pop it in there. You might have to use like if you put too much on there, you might want to heat up the foot with a blow dryer or something like that.
Hmm.
Just pop it in there, and then that way it gives the figure a lot more stability. But I live by this stuff.
Okay, I could
This
use
is
that for
that
Pose Wars. My gosh.
exactly yeah. Oh, something else you can use for pose boards. Get yourself some of this glue tack.
I just
I mean
bought a
some tack.
box recently
Exactly.
because, on the Cajun car dealer, I broke off his wrist peg. Cuervo, you
Oh
gave me
man.
all the tips, and I still broke off one of the wrist pegs. So I was like, I need something to hold the hand in. So yeah,
Hmm.
have you been on any streams with Loco Lu at all?
I haven't been on a stream with
Okay.
him, but I have. Oh, no, we were on Pose Wars together,
Oh, there you go. Okay.
but I haven't actually been on an actual stream with him. But yeah, he has great tips. Also,
Yeah, I was
I
gonna say I
love.
would love to see you guys collaborate on something because you
Now
guys
that
really
would be
know all
kind of
these.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I
he's
mean, I
such a
would, and
cool guy.
yeah, and see a lot of the tips and stuff I have, I really are things I brought over from the ball jointed community because you know, I mean I know how to make wigs. I mean I actually make wigs for my ball jointed figures when I'm
Okay.
not laced up. But yeah, I make wigs and I've been saying, well, hey, maybe I mean I also I know how to root hair, so I could actually take the wig caps and root it, but
Oh wow.
I don't want to do that. So a lot of times I'll just take mohair and make wefts and glue it onto the head
Okay.
and do the head. That's what Kazar is. This is mohair.
Oh, got it. Got it. So
Yeah, and so
you're saying a bunch of words that I don't even know, but
oh
that's
a mohair basically a mohair from a mohair is a wool from it might be I'm not sure if it's lamb's wool, but there's all kinds of wools out there, and like at first I was thinking, hey, maybe use human hair, but in the other community they were like, well, no, you don't want to use human hair because the follicles are too big and it won't look natural on the
okay.
1/6 scale.
It's not
But
scaled right. Okay.
mohair is a smaller fiber. It mimics human hair, but because it's a lot thinner and smaller, it's more suited for the 1/12, 1/6 size.
Okay. Got it.
And it's and you can style it, you can curl it, you can do all kinds of stuff with it, just like you could with human hair. So it's kind of a neat thing. But so I'm hoping to just try a whole bunch of stuff out that I have just been neglecting. I've been neglecting my craft, and that's not a good thing. And I need to just start. I need to just kick myself in the butt.
There you go.
I'm trying to kick
Get
myself and
dialed.
say, do it, just do it.
Get dialed in. Okay. Well, looking forward to a lot of content on your Instagram and hopefully on your YouTube once you're ready to launch that.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
were
so
also
I'm
saying you might
thinking that
want
when
to. Oh, go ahead.
I think that when I set up a YouTube, I may just call myself the host of SpongeBob, but I'm probably going to include nerd in the name somewhere. So maybe all things nerd or the nerd box or I don't know. I'm still trying to come up with a name because I'd like to cover all things creative, but knowing that figure work is the primary thing. But I'll probably include other nerd stuff in there. Like things that relate.
Okay, awesome. Well, really looking forward to all that. Yeah, and thank you for coming on today. This was like an awesome chat.
Thank
We'll
you
have
for
to,
joining.
yeah.
Oh
There you
yes,
Love
go.
thank you
that.
for
Sorry,
Thank you
inviting
for
me.
joining.
I'm not a quick learner, Thomas. I
Thanks for
keep
joining.
making the same mistakes. Thank you for
Well,
joining.
yeah.
And
Well, listen,
yeah,
and anytime you guys want me to participate or be a part of something, just let me know. I mean, clearly I'm available. So,
okay. No,
but
that's
yeah, I've enjoyed this, and you two are great together. You really are, and
thank
y'all
you.
you make an excellent team, and I've just been enjoying this. So, and what I'll do is that I'm going to think up something special for Gigi. And when I have it ready, I'll contact y'all through. I'll
Okay.
chat with you and let you know, and you can
Wow.
let me know where to send it. But I'm gonna try to make something special just for Gigi, and if it's a
Thank you for
figure,
that.
it'll be something just for you that you can play with and pose and do whatever you want to with it,
It's too
and
generous.
just have your way. But
and
that'll be
Thomas,
my way of giving. Huh?
Thank you so much. That's so sweet. And when you start making little clothes, like let's do a competition because I have a sewing machine that I have
Wow,
not
yeah.
opened.
She went for like the
Okay.
fanciest
But I
sewing machine she
I
could
don't know
buy.
anything about sewing. Like my mom, she
Really?
sewed when we were younger and stuff, but I don't know anything. And so I was just gonna like start watching
I'm
YouTube
thinking like
things.
Pose Wars meets what's the
Like little
America's Top
outfits, how cute.
America's Top Designer or whatever.
Yeah,
uh,
I would, I'd love to. That would be great because, I mean, it can be easy, and the good thing about the small scale is that you can take a few shortcuts. Like if you're making a bodysuit, I mean, those things you can take shortcuts that you wouldn't do with regular size clothing, and still make it work very well for them. So yeah, that would be awesome. I'd enjoy that.
Yeah.
and so
Yeah,
Thomas, we'll definitely have to find some additional ways to get you on streams in the future. Gigi's always so busy that sometimes I'm looking for fill-ins. And the other day, Ben Thomas was an angel and hopped in for her, so we
yes.
might call on your services here in the near future.
Okay, that'd be
Yes.
great.
So Mark, Project 16 Runway, Mark, thank you. I'm gonna
That's how we can get your
I'm gonna
wife
hide
on,
this comment.
Mark.
There you go. I like this. I like where we're going with all this. But yeah,
Yeah.
so some things that are coming up on our channel and others. I will be on Jedi Night's Watch on Monday night. I believe it's at 6:30 Pacific time, but I'll have to double check. I'll post it to our Instagram. If you're not following our Instagram 16fix, that's where we show when we're going live and when we'll be on other content. I'll be on Collecting Weekly on Tuesday, per usual. And then I think Ben Thomas and I are thinking about a collaboration. He's got the DX11 Joker, something that I've been considering for a long time. And so we might do an unboxing, and then we can kind of advertise his channel as well. And I think we're
Oh
going to do
yeah.
that Wednesday about 6:30 Pacific time. And so, we'll unbox and we'll get, my thoughts on how it is. Obviously with the Queen Studios version being announced recently, gosh, it's,
That
is it
man.
one you're considering, Thomas?
I'm thinking more and more about it. I really do like it. I have not been. I'm not a huge. I mean, I do like that, but it's been so long ago that I'm kind of over it. But that that piece was that is a phenomenal. I mean, I want it. I
Yeah,
want it.
that's where
I
I am.
want
I'm
it.
gonna have to
To
get
put
it
it
in. Yeah,
delicately, I
that's
want
I
right.
want it.
it.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna have to get it in one form or the other. I'm kind of leaning
Yeah.
towards the cheapest model, but I think Gigi and I will talk about it on the podcast. So the only other
Yeah.
plug I wanted to make is I know we've been on hiatus with the specifically the She Said No podcast because we've had a hard time filling in all the other content we wanted to do with just that podcast alone, which has a very particular structure. So I think in the next week or so we're gonna we'll probably pre-record an episode and maybe try to do some video in that and get Gigi's thoughts on a bunch of these figures that have been announced. She and I have not even talked about those because I was like, they're expensive. Let's save it for the podcast and we'll we'll get her thoughts. And then also on the Razor Crest, which I'm gonna just show off here, which I've put up there. Yeah, we haven't gotten Gigi's thoughts. I still don't know, besides her saying that it's huge, I still don't know how
Oh
she
wow.
feels about it. So let's see. Cuervo says, Gigi keeps saying no to the to the podcast. It's just finding the time, Cuervo. It's been really difficult with all of our schedules. So we're going to try to fit it in here soon. But yeah, I think with that, Thomas, why don't you say your Instagram handle one more time?
Okay. It is SpongeBob underscore square underscore balls with an S.
Okay, and
B A
Gigi's
L
gonna.
L S.
Okay, awesome. So if you're listening out there, go ahead and follow Thomas. And yeah, we got a lot of exciting content coming from him in the near future. And yeah, I hope everyone has a good rest of their day. Thank you so much for joining, Thomas. Again, this was a beautiful convo. So we'll definitely find ways to get you back onto the channel.
All right. And Magic says goodbye.
Oh, bye, Magic. So with that, Gigi, why don't you lead us out?
Bye.
Bye.